Something that I talked about a lot of heavy costs. Widows. Steve McQueen's was his fourth movie now. Follow up to 12 Years a Slave, which he won the Oscar for Best Picture for. I mean, it's got a star-studded cast led by Viola Davis, Daniel Kaluuya, Liam Neeson. I mean, just to name pretty much probably the top three. I mean, Colin Farrell's in there. Brian Tyree Henry. It's pretty stacked. Yeah. Widows. It's interesting. We were talking before we started recording. I had a very, very lively crowd with me. People that were whooping and hollering and oohing and awing at the twists and turns of this movie. It's billed as a heist movie that is really so much more, but it didn't really do that great in the box office. It's doesn't have it's 92% Rotten Tomatoes with the critics, but if I'm recalling it, I think you mentioned this too. It's not really getting a lot of great reviews with fans. What did you think? I mean, I loved it, but I'm wondering if I was in the minority here.
No, I love this movie. I think Widows is absolutely fantastic. But yeah, it got a B cinema score, or is it a B plus? I forget, which is, in terms of cinema score, that's kind of low. That's like Justice League, that's disappointing. And on top of that, it missed box office estimates. It hit 12 million. That's not a lot. And it's a cheap movie, $40 million budget, but it was underseen and kind of lukewarmly received by audiences, which it's tough for me to wrap my head around, just because I don't know how you can watch Widows and be like, fuck, I didn't love this film. I mean, it's a heist movie that like transcends normal heist movies because it tackles everything else that crime is actually about in real life, which is something you don't get from crime movies almost every single time. It's a movie with women leads, about women, that's not just doing it to be about women. It just happens to exist and be about women. Like anywhere you look, there's things like we mentioned the cast. There's so many good performances in this movie, and I think it's a generally thrilling ride. And like it makes the story not about the plot itself. It's not about the actual robbing. It's not about the action. That's all truncated in Act 3, right? It's about the storytelling and the grander themes. And I thought it's interesting because Steve McQueen, his first three films are all feature films, are all very relentless and very tough to watch more than once because they're very punishing to the characters on screen. And Widows is not that. I think Widows has slightly funny moments, good action, and tons of character moments. It's a nice genre shift for Steve McQueen, but also tonal shift for him too. So I really liked it as a fan of his earlier work. But even if you weren't familiar with him, I think this is an incredibly crowd pleasing film. But clearly that wasn't the case. That's surprising.
Yeah, it definitely surprises me, and I think, when I think about this movie, there's so many things about it that really stand out. Like, pretty much everybody gave a really strong performance. It was a really great script, and like I said, there were twists and turns. So there's, even if you're not like, you don't really care about like the cinematography or any of that sort of stuff, it's just a fun story, and it's a great heist movie. I mean, I was like gripping the edge of my seat when they finally did go in and pull the heist off. And I mean, it's hard for me to, I guess, make sense of why people might not like it, especially because, I mean, Steve McQueen, obviously one of the best I don't even know if you can say up and coming, one of the best directors we have right now. And he lets all these characters and all these actors just ball out. Like Viola Davis in this, I mean, we already know that she's great. We don't really need to go into why Viola Davis is great, but she has a pretty difficult like lead role because she's dealing with all this grief and all this like confusion and kind of just like on the edge of things the whole time, while also having to hold it together and figure out how to pull off a heist when she's never done anything like this before. She's just like piecing life together at that point. You have Cynthia Erivo, who like
Irvo.
Irvo comes in like halfway through the movie and just is like this rocket on screen and adds like so much like weight and like badassness. You have Elizabeth Debicki, whose character probably has the most growth and probably the most satisfying character arc, I'd say, throughout. And then on the other side of things, you got Brian Tyree Henry, um, and Colin Farrell like going toe to toe like the whole time. It's like, how can you like not like what's happening here? And I think maybe it's not that people don't like it, but uh, I think when you have movies like the crimes of Grindelwald, which we're going to get to, a lot of people probably said, I'm going to go see that this weekend, and I'll go see Widows over the Thanksgiving break or something like that. I basically just gushed about it. Maybe a good place to start in breaking down what we liked about the movie is McQueen, I think, had a lot of like signature moments in this, but what stood out to you most about his direction, or just his overall like touch on the film?
Yeah, I think you mentioned cinematography. I think it stands out. There's some really nice moments with the camera where Colin Farrell leaves the event in the district, and the camera is not on his conversation in the car. It's just put on the hood of the car. You're just watching him drive from like the poorer areas in the district to the affluent mansion that he lives in, like 10 minutes away.
Not
And
even like 5.
right, and it's a really smart way to show the audience and just show the wealth gaps that exist in Chicago. It's an accurate depiction of the gentrification of Chicago and the haves and the have-nots and whatnot. So I think that was effective both in and out of the story. And then the camera also really twirls around Kaluuya a lot when he's doing his menacing
In the gym.
murdering. The basketball scene in the gym most importantly, which is funny, the two guys he killed were the cool kids, the rap duo.
Fucking crazy.
Michael Rocks. Fucking, I didn't quite recognize at first. I was like, I recognize Sir Mikey Rocks. I was like, is it? And then I read about it later. I was like, fuck, I want to watch it again now that I'll be looking for it. But yeah, the way the camera like pans around him, and then or when it'll focus on his face when his goons were doing stuff for him, right?
Yeah.
Smart touches. And the only choice I think he made in this film that I would question, and I don't have as big a problem with it with other people, but I saw it being mentioned, was the flashback scene with Viola Davis and Liam Neeson's son in the car. I think that scene it doesn't flesh out, police violence on black men, black youths that well. And the rest of the movie tackles issues in a smarter way. So it almost is like this was like ham-fisted into the film a little bit. We really need that flashback for Viola Davis's character arc, And then the meta story, Steve McQueen is a British man, and it's almost like here's your commentary on America's problems. So it's like I didn't think it took away from the film, but I do think it was a little sloppier than most of the rest of the film. So I think that's he tripped a little bit with that. But yeah, I think he killed it, and it's he's a director that's not that famous, but he should be.
Absolutely. And I agree with everything you said. The like signature cinematography moments in this are fantastic. I think what I was most impressed with was how him and Gillian Flynn wrote this story that is a heist movie, but it also encompasses politics and racial relationships and undertones. And there's so much that goes into it, and it's written so well and paced so well, where it's able to cover all these things and do it in a way that feels not rushed or like he's not serving all those different parts. I thought that was just incredibly impressive, and I left being like, man, there was so much in that, but they really, I don't think, underserved anything. So definitely impressive. The one thing I mean, two moments really stand out to me that I didn't like. Linda, played by Michelle Rodriguez, when she goes to the architect's house, that whole scene and like ending up making me like, what? And I'm sure that's probably just to kind of depth in terms of like how she's grieving and handling it. Also, not enough Carrie Coon, man. Like you got Carrie Coon. You know what, she gets what, 3 scenes maybe in the whole thing. I want more Carrie Coon in my life. And especially because I want to see more of how things came together with her and Liam Neeson's character in it.
Yeah, I think that definitely could use some more fleshing out, considering they show you kind of early that Liam didn't die, right? So I would agree with that. I thought Michelle Rodriguez was just a little vague as a character
Yeah.
in this, and then Cynthia Erivo was great, right? But it was unfortunately more of a physical performance than anything else, just because you didn't have enough time to do that much else, you know. It doesn't detract from the movie, but you just, those I think those two characters was a little weaker. But Debicki and Davis obviously are dynamite, and Debicki, like you said, she arguably has the most, just because there's so much obvious, tangible change happening to her character, and another thing you mentioned that's in the script is men and women's relationships. I mean, her both reconciling with her now dead husband, and then her taking up the
Sugar
arrangement
Daddy.
with Lucas Haas, right? And it's like
Yeah.
there's a lot there, and then seeing her come into her own and finessing
Thrive.
that mom to buy her Trigger locks. That
Eat
was
that hot dog, girl. That was fucking iconic.
yeah.
Iconic.
So I think overall it's a movie I would recommend to a lot of people. I thought Colin Farrell was perfectly cast as well. Didn't mind the accent. I thought some people thought it was a little too Irish.
I
It was
did mind the accent,
Boston.
man. I don't know what it is. I think maybe it's because I think about him in True Detective so much now that
I don't
like
even remember what it was like in True Detective. So
it wasn't great. He doesn't. I feel like he doesn't do accent work well, but I thought he was still fine in the role. I was gonna ask you because there's a lot of great performances. Who's the MVP of this movie for you?
it's tough because I think Viola Davis has to keep the movie going, keep the movie
Yeah.
together. She's probably the most important performance. But taking that away, I would say it's Debicki or Kaluuya in terms of like pound for pound scenes for me. But it's tough. You could pick a lot of people.
Yeah, I think my MVP is Olivia. She basal mystery. She was fantastic, and she is definitely the better dog over Charlie Cooper from A Star Is Born. So that's not really a debate. Now, I think in seriousness, probably for me, it would be Kaluuya, just because every time he was on the screen, I felt like nervous. I felt intimidated. He really was this amazing villain. He does so much just with his eyes. It's like unbelievable. Like just how he can sit in a chair and just like let his eyes hang, and it like says so much. Um, but Debicki also, you mentioned her character has the most like tangible growth in the movie, but the way that she goes from being this like very timid and meek character to this like badass bitch by the end was just like so cool to watch. RIP to Bash. I mean, damn, dude, they did him dirty. Just to kind of wrap everything up, they left things a little open ended at the end. Would you want to see a sequel or a prequel to this?
No, hell no. Yeah, would I like to see Liam Neeson and John Bernthal's crew? Sure. Would have liked to have seen more than one scene with John Bernthal? Yes, but
Yeah.
and would I like to see Tyree Henry's wrath once he finds out his brother died and he got chipped out of the election and he didn't get his money? Sure, but that's not what the movie's about. So we don't need that. It's kind of like making
Right.
a Sicario sequel.
Yeah, I agree. I have a feeling we will get one, and it probably won't be Steve McQueen directed, but
Really, because this didn't make any money, so why would they make a sequel?
I think it'll be up for awards probably though.
Yeah, it probably will. It's probably on the Best Picture bubble, Best
This
Director
is gonna
bubble.
have like a good back end to it, just because I think people are going to hear about it at awards time. They're gonna see it's a heist movie with all these characters, and people will end up seeing it in February and March. So we'll see. I don't know. I'd like to see a prequel. I mean, like you said, Bernthal getting one scene and having that that was that motorcycle or dirt bike in his like living room. Like I just need to know why he did that. And also he seemed to be doing an accent with it. I want to know like what that was all about. I got questions, but overall, Widows again, certified fresh. Check it out. We really like it, and I have a feeling we're gonna see Viola Davis at the award shows, at least getting nominations, and hopefully McQueen too.